7 o'clock, so I'll call tonight's city council meeting to order. And Kristina, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Erickson. Councilmember Roberts.
Here.
Councilmember Valento.
Here.
Councilmember Husnick.
Here.
Mayor Bain.
Here. I'd like to invite everyone to rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. 7 o'clock, so I'll call tonight's city council meeting to order. And Kristina, could we have a roll call, please? Let's not hear that on echo.
Councilmember Erickson. Councilmember Roberts.
Here.
Councilmember Valento. Here. Councilmember Husnick.
Here.
Mayor Bain.
Here. I'd like to invite everyone to rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I don't know. I don't know where it's coming from.
Let's proceed with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Council, we have an agenda before you this evening. I do have one amendment to the agenda tonight, and that is to add a discussion item as a new item 8B to discuss an accelerated timeline for our city administrator search. And with that, I would move that council approve the amended agenda. Is there a second? Council, we have an agenda before you this evening. I do have one amendment to the agenda tonight, and that is to add a discussion item as a new item 8B to discuss an accelerated timeline for our city administrator search. Let's take a 5-minute recess just to give us a moment to get technology under control. Is there a second?
Might have to fight a poll.
5-minute recess just to give us a moment to get technology under control.
I don't know how to fix it, guys. I don't know what it is.
Might have to fight a poll.
Well,
Got an open mic. Yeah, maybe.
but that's never been, and I've never had
Well,
to
she's
use
got
it
to come there.
before. I guess we'll just try it.
Something that needs to be muted on that?
What?
There's something that needs to be muted when we were touching it.
I don't know how to work this system. I just know to unmute all and mute all, so.
Did you say they were resetting though?
Yep, and
Let's
it is
give it-
reset, so we can try it again, or maybe just give it a quick second to see if we hear the delay of just this brief conversation.
Okay. We're going to proceed. Our next item on the agenda is open forum. Open forum is any interested party's opportunity to address council on any topic of your choosing.
Madam Mayor,
Oh,
do
we
you need to vote on
Did not
that?
vote on the agenda, thank you.
Sure.
We
I'll
had a motion, was there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from Councilmember Husnick. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? And our agenda is approved. Okay, next item, open forum. Is there anybody signed up for open forum this evening?
It's not.
There is none. Okay. With that, we'll bring conversation back to council. We have a short consent agenda this evening. Council, for your consideration, are consent agenda items 6A through E, and I will entertain a motion or any changes.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda 6A through 6E.
Motion, is there a
I'll
second?
second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? And our consent agenda is approved. Okay, moving on to our regular agenda, and I think our sound issue is resolved. Very good. First item is item 7A, the Westlake Preliminary Planned Unit Development, and a resolution at 2/26/2401. And Abby, I believe you're walking us through this?
Yes, just a second. Bringing up on the screen should be the site location map of the subject property. Applicant Brian Holder of MN Forest Westlake LLC owns the Westlake Shopping Center. That's at the corner of 12th and 3rd, kind of over in the western part of the city. Mr. Holder would like to build a 9,600 square foot, potentially multi-tenant, but retail space to the north of the existing Northern Tool site. So for reference, we see on the map here, this is that northern space. That's kind of a green space right now, the Northern Tool building. These dotted lines actually represent the property lines, and in Forest Lake, you cannot build a second building on a property without going through the planned unit development process. And so that is really what is before you tonight, is consideration of a preliminary planned unit development for that second building. Not the site, not the amenities associated with it, just whether or not we really are okay with that second building. The purpose of a PUD is to allow for creativity and flexibility. Really, other than the second building on the site, the developer, the landowner, is really asking for only one concession from the city. The district that we're in requires limits the maximum impervious surface to 80%. They've requested to exceed that to 83.4%. That is the only variation in the city's code that they'd be looking for. One of the things that we look for with PUDs, though, is it conforming to the code in all the other ways, and what is some of the public benefit associated with the planned unit development? So in looking at the impervious surface regulation, staff does firmly believe that those impervious surface regulations were really designed to adequately address stormwater and drainage needs at a time when we didn't necessarily have our modern stormwater regulations. The site is completely accommodating, the new build site is completely accommodating all of its stormwater needs right on site. Additionally, so that is what we would be looking at if the PUD moves forward. Additionally, the applicant has proposed landscaping associated with this site, as well as reducing quite a bit amount of impervious surface that exists on the rest of the shopping mall site. Really cleaning up that entrance by putting in new plantings. All of the hardscaping in front of the buildings would be redesigned to encompass more landscaping, and then some landscaping in the back of the property as well. We have kind of an access drive back there. The other thing that staff had talked about with the landowner is easements along 12th and 3rd Avenue to accommodate both pedestrian amenities, drainage utilities, those sorts of things. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. The plat for the shopping mall does have a 10-foot drainage and utility easement. However, that 10-foot drainage and utility easement does not cover things like some of the pedestrian ways that are encroaching into the property. So we are requesting additional easement be placed along both 12th and 3rd to accommodate pedestrian way, drainage utility, and potential right-of-way. There was a neighborhood meeting held on this planned unit development, January 10th. Neighbors did come out and express concern about noise and quite a bit of conversation about cut-through traffic. I'm not sure anyone on the council would even be aware and never had ever maybe seen this happen, but it does look like there is quite a bit of vehicle traffic that is cutting behind the property to avoid both the intersection at 3rd and 12th and then at 12th and Broadway. The landowner is looking at ways to reduce that ability, maybe not by putting up any sort of fencing, but putting up things like removable speed bumps. Also just having more of a presence there, maybe looking at cameras, those sorts of things. Additionally, as I noted, there would be more landscaping placed along there to reduce that noise that's being, affecting the neighborhood. On January 24th, the Planning Commission did hear this request. In a public hearing, after discussion, they did make a favorable recommendation of approval. I do want to note, just for the record, it wasn't unanimous. One commissioner was concerned that the city should be asking for additional easement. Staff has done preliminary designs on the needs associated with Broadway Avenue in this, or 12th Avenue in this location. However, there isn't necessarily a reasonable nexus between this, adding the second building and acquiring more right-of-way for Broadway's future expansion. We really felt it was appropriate to request those pedestrian amenities, drainage utility, those sorts of things that are very much relevant to the project that's going before you. So tonight for your consideration is Resolution 02262401. It is a resolution approving a preliminary PUD. If the council does approve it tonight, they will need to come back for final PUD. That goes to the Planning Commission and the City Council. We look at PUDs a lot for residential developments, and they're bigger, and there might be some changes between that preliminary and that final. We don't actually anticipate that there's going to be any final in that changes, and that final should be coming back before you in the next month or so. Staff would recommend that tonight you do approve the resolution. The council make a motion to approve Resolution 02262401, which do incorporate 6 conditions of approval. The landowner representative, Brian Holder, is here tonight if you have questions for him. Otherwise, I'm available as well.
Thank you, Abby. Council, let's open it up. Perhaps take any initial questions, comments council may have. I'm happy to give the landowner an opportunity to speak if there's anything he would like council to hear tonight, or certainly if there's any questions council you may have. Should we just open it up? Any immediate questions or concerns for conversation?
Madam Mayor, if you don't mind, the impervious surface thing just kind of proves how far behind we are with our zoning thing, because that was never intended to, in this particular case, they're having their own ponding system there and all that, and that should be more than enough credit to take care of that, so I have no problem with that whatsoever. And that zone that came back, or that came into effect before all these ponding requirements, so we need to fix that.
I would also agree, and happy we have an opportunity to be able to override that requirement tonight, so. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I had the opportunity to be involved at the Planning Commission meeting. It was a good discussion. It was a great presentation by staff, and the commission had some good conversation back and forth about some concerns, but worked those through, and so I think this is a great project, and I appreciate their continued investment in Forest Lake.
Yes, I have similar thoughts. I don't really have any questions specifically for the project. I'm happy to see the additional landscape and just some of the site improvements that are being made. Looks like a great project. I know we're just at the beginning of it, but happy to see this going in and happy to support it this evening. Because it seems that we do not have a lot of burning questions, I am happy to, though, give you some time if you'd like to address council at on any topic.
My name is Brian Holder. I'm one of the owners of the shopping center we're talking about. No, I really appreciate your support. I think it's an exciting opportunity to do a couple things. One is to sort of transform just a big vacant lot into something that's better for the community, shopping, jobs, that type of stuff. Also allows us to add to the water treatment, which right now there is none on site. So that piece, there's an ability to retain and take care of that. And also, without this, we wouldn't have really gone and invested in the regentrification, if you will, the balance of the asset. So it allows us to redistribute landscaping and improve the overall assets appearance in general. So yeah, no, excited about the opportunity, and we're working hard on finding some tenants and putting that together. That's a big piece of it, but obviously having the entitlement to do it is gigantic, and I appreciate your support.
Very good.
This is going to be a good project. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Council, I'm happy to entertain any questions. Otherwise, it looks like we may be ready for a motion if anyone's ready.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Westlake preliminary PUD, Resolution 02262401 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, and motion carries. Good luck with your project. Okay, our next item this evening is consideration of the Republic Services Residential Refuse and Recycling Contract Amendment. And Kristina.
Mayor and Council, before you tonight is this similar amendment to what you saw last fall when you began this discussion and gave staff the direction to go out and negotiate another 5-year extension with Republic Services. The current contract has an expiration of this year, but allows for 2 5-year extensions. I met with Bev Matheson, who is here if you have questions as well, from Republic Services. They are willing to hold over the offer from last August, which I think is good given what we see with a lot of other pricing around here. I do have one correction that was just brought to my attention today. In the agreement, on page 4, last year when you were looking at this, it had the county's 2023 disposal rates in there. And since that time, we've gotten the new ones for 2024. I don't think you need to make any amendments to the agreement because there's language that says it will be updated every year and it's whatever the county's gonna charge. But it was a 17.5% increase that the county approved. And so some of the numbers that your former administrator had put together in the analysis are gonna be low in comparison to what the actual is because the increases were larger than anticipated. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, or Bev is here if you have some for her as well.
Very good. Thank you, Kristina. Council, should we open it up? Any questions? I know this has been workshopped a couple of times. Any follow-up? I do just, maybe just to kick us off here, just one question or maybe a point of, a point for the public. We've had, as throughout the life of our contract, we get periodic updates on service, and so the service response times get reported back into the city, and the city's kind of given visibility to kind of number of calls that we are received. I'm assuming that the amendment continues with that same fact pattern or that same arrangement, so that we can kind of see what those resolutions are, types of issues. I see Bev nodding her head, but just wanted that to be kind of made public and us to highlight that as part of the arrangement, that although it is a contract with Republic, that we as a city do have some visibility and some reporting requirements as part of the contract so that we can kind of keep tabs on service levels and be apprised of any issues that are out there. So I just wanted to make sure that there weren't any planned changes to timing, duration of that arrangement. And Bev, I see you coming up here.
Clear that out.
Thank you.
Yeah, there is no amendment at all to any of the reporting. We'll still continue to meet with you annually, give you your annual update, the progress that we've made on contamination, which has been phenomenal over the life of the contract. So none of that will change.
Very good. Thank you. Well, Bev's up here. Any other questions for Bev as part of the contract? Not seeing any. All right. Thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. Council, any other questions or comments on this?
Yeah, a couple comments. A lot of people, some people in the community are challenged at times about not having a choice for this. And so I think it's been clear, and staff's made it clear, that going with a one hauler is the best long-term for the city. But maybe just either from Dave or Ryan, some comments on that publicly as to why we have gone this route over the last couple of contracts.
These trucks get very heavy, and if we have 2-3 companies running up and down, that's just 3 times the amount of heavy truck traffic on your local roadways, especially out in the rural areas, especially this winter we've had where we're bouncing back and forth at extreme numbers of freeze-thaw cycles. That outside shoulder is very soft. More trucks we run up and down there, you're just going to beat your roads up way faster from that perspective. Just think, especially when you have multiple haulers. It's actually in my community, I look down the block, I see 3 different, sometimes 4 different companies. So I have 4 different companies driving through that neighborhood just to pick up a certain number of houses. It's not just all uniform, everybody gets picked up same day in that particular area. I might have garbage trucks 3 days, on 3 separate days of the week. That's my perspective on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to echo off that, every day kind of becomes garbage day. And on a maintenance aspect, if we're out street sweeping or snow plowing or doing any of that maintenance, we plan right now, Republic is very good. They give us a map of where they're gonna be at each individual day, so we plan our street sweeping accordingly. And snow plowing, we know which route has the garbage cans on it, so if you have multiples, it just makes it just more difficult for, especially street sweeping. I mean, you need to run the curb line, and if there's garbage cans down half the road, it's impossible to clean that up. So, and I echo the weight too. It's, especially in the spring, if you're having a garbage truck a day driving on, you're just gonna ruin the sides of your roads, and it's long-term cost for the city as well.
The only other comment then I would have is, as far as this increase, it's going to come back looking poorly because of that county increase being so high. So I don't know if there's opportunity education-wise, whether it's Republic doing that or the city to explain that. And I think the timing might be good in that the new environmental center is going to be opening, at some time this year, I suspect. And so that would be a good way, like, this is the part of the reason why we have these fees.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. We've, I think, tried to get some, whenever we're at that annual increase point, try to get some advanced communication as part of social media and as part of the newsletter, but, or the email, the weekly email blast. But I think, especially because this increase is different than what was in the original package, and maybe including the details of the percentage that, because it is sizable and it's outside of any of our haulers' control. So I think having that included. Our new social media company seems like they're doing a good job on engagement, so maybe getting that out there as part of that increase would be good feedback.
Yeah, the main thing we have to let folks know is that it doesn't matter who the hauler is. Those fees are gonna be in place, no matter who the garbage hauler is.
Right.
And I think, it seems to me that the commercial businesses can still have a choice. I see different bins out there for different commercial uses, so, but the wear and tear on roads, and now, for instance, now I think the road restrictions went on today, right? That's a good example of, and we still have to run garbage trucks and school buses and the other heavy equipment that is kind of exempt from all that. So anyways, that's the only comment I have about it. Other than that, there's not much we can do about these fees that are imposed by the county. How are you gonna fix that?
Any other comments or points of feedback? Sounds like we may be ready for a motion if anyone is ready.
I'm ready, Madam Mayor. I would make a motion that we approve the Public Services Residential Refuse and Recycling Contract Amendment.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Any follow-up discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? And motion carries. Next item, circle back on new board and commission members. Happy to report that we've got a couple of, well, 2 new faces and a very familiar face, but returning into a different role. And so I'm happy to recommend for council's approval the appointment of Eric Langness to our EDA for a 6-year term, and that 6-year term is kind of standard for the EDA. And then Tim Stender and Jesse Wagner, both to the Planning Commission, each for 3-year terms, which is the standard for that. So that is my submission. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion that we appoint the members that you just mentioned, Mara. I'm sorry, I'm looking for the names here again. So.
That's it's okay. As listed? There's
As
a
your
motion?
as listed, yes.
I'll second.
Here it is right here.
Motion, second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? And motion carries. Our next item is item 7D, Fenway Pickleball Crack Filling and Resurfacing. Dave, you could have a
Good evening,
long
Mayor and
pickleball
Council.
season this year.
What was that?
You could have a long pickleball season this
I
year.
know.
It's good that we're getting this done.
put the nets up, it'll snow, take the nets down,
Yeah.
put the nets back up, it'll snow.
That's right.
During last year, during the budget season, the pickleball group expressed a lot of concerns about the courts out there. We had already had plans for 2024 to do some rehab of the infields and lowering the fences, so it was kind of decided and discussed to bump that budget up a little bit to include that crack filling and resurfacing. It was originally thought that we could get by crack filling, but the age of the court is, it's 7 years old now, or it's gonna be 7 years, so, and when you crack fill, then it is all discolored and it'll kind of look like Belts does, you know, with the cracks and the crack filling. So for a little extra, then it's gonna be all crack filled, routed crack filled, and then completely resurfaced, so it'll be, look like brand new. And at that price, it still should be the entire project will be under budget. The fence work, we were meeting with the contractor out there. They have some concerns with the original design of the complex, of how the water drains, and they think of what may be causing that heaving to happen more often. So there may be some maintenance Public Works needs to do to extend the warning tracks before they come and lower that fence, but that can be done all the way up until October or November of next year. And then the infields, there's still some inner workings with staff and flaw in the school district that we're working through, but we also wouldn't start that until late August, early September, once the season got through with, and that annual softball game that flaw has with the fire folks and that playing. So we wanted to get that in, and then it would be shut down from when they started until the following season to let everything kind of heal up. There's gonna be new sod, and they're gonna rip up the entire infield, so it's kind of wise to let that sit for a few months so they don't damage it. But this one's the real time sensitive. If we can get it on the contractor schedule, we can hopefully get it right away done in May, June, when it gets warm enough for them to do it, and then we don't have to shut down midsummer to shut it down. We'll probably be open and then have to close for a week and then reopen, but we also don't want to put the windscreens up because we'll have to take them all back down when they power wash this, and it's a project to do that and put it back up. So the plan would be to get the nets up and keep the windscreens down until this was done, and then put the nets back up and the windscreens and then open it back up.
Makes sense.
If it does get delayed and it's not till July, then we'll obviously put the windscreens up, but we don't want to have 3 weeks up and then have to take it down, so.
How long are you expecting the courts to be down for the?
About a week. He said it's 3 to 5 days, weather dependent, so we're hoping that we take it down on Monday morning and put it back up on a Friday afternoon would
Okay.
be the hope if they don't run into any issues, so. But we'll obviously do, a bunch of advertising, put a message board up there for the groups to know, probably a week in advance that, hey, it's gonna be shut down the following week. But the price, we got two quotes. The one came in the high 20s or low 30s, so this one was way better, and these are the original installers, so this is the group that put the cord in originally, so they knew what they were working with, and so it's a pretty accurate bid. So all I'm asking tonight is the approval to give approval to this company to do the work. If you have any questions, free to ask.
Thank you, Dave. Council, what questions may we have?
How do we comment?
Any questions?
I know, just a comment. I mean, last fall, this was a big deal. We get something done. We had the place was full here, so we hadn't seen that for a long, long time, and it's all part of the park dedication fund that we've approved, and get it done. Get her done.
It'll be something that'll get added to the CIP too, so we'll probably do at that 6-year mark, and then put another placeholder of around $20,000, just so it stays in there and we keep up on it.
Right.
All that stuff, as we start doing it, we'll keep adding it to the CIP so we don't forget about it, or, so it's accounted for. Let stuff go.
Will that keep us from having to replace it if we do the maintenance? I mean, that's the main thing, is if we maintain it properly. I know it lasts longer, but do you think 6 years is gonna?
So the big benefit is that one out there is concrete, so it does not
Okay.
move like blacktop. So these cracks that you're getting is just the cracks of the surfacing. It's not the actual concrete that's breaking, like Belts, for example, is blacktop. So that's like a road. When it cracks like that, then it just keeps getting worse and worse, where this concrete there'll be at some point that you're gonna have to do a full grind off all the surfacing and start over again, but that's probably 2 or 3 down in the cycle.
Okay.
But the concrete's 75 to 100 years there's no traffic
okay.
on it, it's just pedestrians, so.
Yeah, as Councilmember Husnick mentioned, this was one of our top feedback points during last year's budget season, so it's good to see it done. Timing seems like it's well prepared. Any other comments or questions from council?
Just making a comment that I'm glad to see this on, and as we've all mentioned, that we had a lot of people come in, and I think with the way that how Parks has been neglected throughout previous years, that we're finally catching up, and we'll get there. And this is just one step to get there, so.
Yeah, on a very busy public amenity, so it's good to see it done. Anyone ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the bid from Upper Midwest Athletic Construction for Fenway Pickleball Court resurfacing in the amount of $18,870.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
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 Opposed? And our motion is approved. Okay, we're going to move into our discussion portion of our agenda. We have two discussion topics tonight. Just a note for anyone who's watching. It's a more relaxed feedback portion of our meeting. Anything that we talk about that requires official action will come back onto a council meeting on a regular agenda. And so, the first item for discussion is the EDA work plan. And Abby, I think you're going to walk us through this.
Thank you, Mayor Bain. Members of the council, since October, the EDA has been working on updating its work plan, going down to a 2-year work plan and looking to really see how we can create some very actual goals that we can achieve and check some boxes or knock things off a list. The current work plan is a little outdated, and there's a lot more things that on that plan that are just kind of that ongoing activities that we keep doing day in and day out. So as part of the update process, Chris Ng with Washington County actually led the EDA through a series of workshops that really started to get at the priorities affecting the EDA and the community and looking to see how the EDA could tailor those in. We, I think, had maybe 15, 20 different priorities, but after doing kind of a dot exercise, really nailed it down to about 5. And from those 5, then really condensed it down into these 3 different kind of goal subsets. Do you want me to walk right through these as the council reviewed them? You want to walk through them really quick? Sure. Just a second, I'll bring them up for us. So the first goal would be to review all of our public financial assistance policies and procedures and then make recommendations to this body. As I've advised the council in the past, that we have a number of outdated policies in the community and economic development world, just things that we haven't touched for a long time. And as we look to develop and grow our community, really reassessing those policies and determine whether or not they fit for what we want right now. So we would have the goal of completing those by the end of this year, every 1 to 3 months, essentially pulling a new one. So we'd be looking at business subsidy, tax abatement, TIF, our forgivable incentive loan program. The other action step in this would be the EDA would assist the council in identifying uses for the distribution of the new local affordable housing aid. So I think I briefed the council that we're going to get about $300,000 a year for the next 4 years for local affordable housing, and we'll need to figure out what that can be used for. The reason that the EDA, I'm recommending that they assist is that the EDA can be a housing authority and therefore be a conduit for these funds. Those are things we'll work through as we kind of work through how we want to use those funds, who's best, what are the policies we'd like to create for them, what are the projects that they would fund, and then who's the best body to be kind of overseeing those funds. Do you guys want to talk at all about goal number 1 there? Have any questions? No? So goal number 2, study and support opportunities for growth, development, and redevelopment. The first one would be to develop a Southwest Area Infrastructure Phasing Study. We talk about applying for EPA grant or Pre-Development Finance Fund grant. That's through Washington County CDA. So again, this is that area that's south of Headwaters, west of Highway 61 to both of our borders, essentially really looking to see how can we phase the infrastructure through there, including regional storm ponding, so that it's helping spur development and we're kind of staying in front of that in some way. The next would be to refine, promote, so the goal would be to have this study completed this year. The next one would be to refine, promote, and implement the downtown plan by engaging with diverse stakeholders. So there's a couple different deliverables. By the end of Q2 of this year, we'd finalize the shoreline stabilization boat launch relocation study. That is in a draft format. We're just engaging with private landowners that could be the findings do suggest that there might need to be some private land acquisition, so we're just engaging with those property owners before that is publicly released. Then we'd really look to see what are our 2025 downtown priorities. Remember, we have this big plan, and it kind of says, well, we can do little things, or we can do really great big things. Really kind of taking one of those a year and really trying to whittle away at it, I think, is a good approach. And then just ongoing, continuing to meet with local businesses, landowners, discuss downtown needs. And then lastly, in this opportunities for growth and development, the EDA would continue to promote the business incentive programs. Annually, we determine the number of loans that we could give, and then ongoing, we'd continue to promote and update our websites and advise property owners when, what incentive programs they could be eligible for. So any questions or discussion on that goal 2?
No, we don't want it to go public, but is there an opportunity yet, but is there an opportunity to share that study, the shoreline study, with council in some form?
Yeah, as soon as my hope is that within the next couple weeks, the landowners will be able to have had those conversations, at least the base inquiry. Are they interested in donating, selling, or offering a first right of refusal to the city? Just to see before we release that publicly. But yes, it would be coming to both the council and the EDA as part of kind of that next step of the potential relocation and the shoreline stabilization. And then lastly, goal 3, support marketing efforts for the sale and development of Headwaters 123. So I will say that some of the Headwaters 123 stuff gets pushed out a little bit. As you know, that it's an election year. There's been a lot of kind of back and forth, I think, on, not back and forth, but we've kind of changed our mind in the last few years. It was going to be housing. Now it's in the business park. We've been marketing it in to the technology corridor. We're going to continue to do the marketing in the technology corridor and going out and shaking hands at conferences and trade shows to see if there's interest. But first part of next year, we really need to do some consensus building with the EDA and the council. What is our vision for Headwaters 123? Do we continue to market in this way? Do we do a small area plan? The goal would be that by the end of 2025, we may have been ready to release an RFP to see if there's development firms out there interested in assisting us in the development of that property. And then again, like I said, just ongoing efforts. We're going to continue to update our website with marketing materials. We're going to go to expos, attend conferences, summits, those sorts of things. So any questions on the work plan? So the goal tonight would be the council provide any direction to staff for amendments to the EDA work plan. Otherwise, we'll be bringing it back to the EDA for their formal adoption, and they start implementing it right away.
On this last goal here, I know Dan Undum did a really nice job and worked hard at getting that new website up, Invest in Forest Lake. Is that being monitored and updated on a regular basis still?
I am monitoring it right now. Just the update, there isn't as much to update. We're talking internally, how do we start to get more information out about some of the development stuff that is going on, right? So we get those inquiries, and the question has kind of been raised, is that putting it on an invest in force, like, oh, look, all these projects are actually happening here, or on the city's website. As of right now, I haven't put a lot on there because we haven't produced a lot since Dan has left in terms of EDA content, but it is the goal to make that website a little more robust.
So then is overall, this is just to bring it up for discussion. I don't know what the rest of the council feels about this, but it's before the EDA approving this with us, it'd be nice to maybe have a check-in with them, a joint session with them, and make sure that council and EDA are on the same page.
On the work plan?
Yeah, on the work plan and in general, I guess. You know, in my time with the EDA, that happened, you know, on at least an annual basis, it seemed like. And so I would almost like to maybe see that happen before this is formally approved. But
Are there, and I think maybe coming here tonight is a little bit of a trial balloon on just where are we on the same page, or are there areas that we should be amending, either topics or pace? And if there's a reason to have a joint session, I'm happy to support that. As I look at this plan, it's maybe a bit of a refinement from the previous work plan that we had, but there's not a ton of change. But again, that doesn't mean that we couldn't take a different path. And so if there's a desire for, I think that was kind of our point tonight, was to just kind of do a check-in of how are we? Are we on the same page? Yes, keep moving forward, or should we do a working session? Is there some topics that you would like to bring to that working session that maybe we would be, maybe some food for
you know,
thought, or some
so
places
one that comes to
to?
mind that's just fairly recent is just a question of selling city land or not, or giving it away, or however that goes. Like, that I think needs to be talked about sooner than later. I know we're having a closed session on that, but overall, maybe this isn't part of the work plan, but it just needs to, I feel that it needs to be a conversation, or a check-in should be with both bodies to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah, so, what would be, so the EDA's been through this a couple of times. And so I think some feedback on, so specifically around, the topic of public land is, you know, kind of maybe incorporated into goal 1 around reviewing our policies on that.
Kristina might have something to add.
Kristina, go ahead.
Sorry, Mayor and Councilmember Roberts, that's what I thought I heard you say we're getting at too, and so I just wanted to confirm, maybe it's not a joint work session on the plan, but it's, as we're going through some of that policy development, there needs to be some joint meetings. Is that what you're getting at?
Maybe that's more, yeah.
Is there, but if you feel like, I don't want us to miss an opportunity to all get on the same page, that if we feel like there's topics that aren't covered by the goals, or if there's a pace here that is not what we want, I don't want to just try to steamroll over an opportunity for a working session. So I'm happy to do it. It's I think the question is, what's the area to be pushed on further?
I guess I don't think there's anything, I wouldn't disagree with any of these goals.
Okay.
I think that they're all, you know, very, very important. Whether it's, I would be fine with them approving this without, but I think
okay.
I just think we need to, I mean, again, that's been nice to have in the past, since being on the
Agree.
EDA side of things.
Yes.
Knowing what the council wants and
Agree.
is their
Agree.
goals, I think is important, and that was
Yeah.
helpful whenever.
So we've talked about doing kind of and we have kind of this top line need of needing to do some level of 2020 it's not really strategic planning, it's more kind of council level planning for 2024. And we've talked about that as part of new city administrator coming on board and us kind of really transitioning from 2023 into 2024 with that. And there's certainly an EDA component to that. So maybe that's where it fits. I think it's also just the good feedback on, as the EDA is working on projects, making sure we're taking up the opportunity for joint workshops. But again, I don't want to steamroll over. If there's some feedback specifically to the work plan, we can certainly do a joint session, but it sounds like maybe it's more, maybe some of your points are more topic related, and so maybe it's opportunities for joint sessions as topics are coming up.
Probably, specifically
Okay.
123, and that's a big deal for us to be able to.
Mayor Bain, if I might just interject, and
Please.
members of the council, it was my intention for sure with this review public financial assistance policies, even though it says make recommendation to the council, that at the onset, we've got both bodies in the room. I think I agree with Councilmember Roberts that staff right now is kind of doing a little bit of a ping pong and really making sure that we can all get on the same page. It's going to help make my job easier. It's going to help all of us as we navigate all of these inquiries. And so I think we can explore this idea of policy and procedure development in maybe a one workshop kind of setting where we really run through a few different scenarios and policies, if this, then that. And then as we start to break out those policies, kind of doing that back and forth will be quicker, I think. But I do think that there's opportunity to have that. And definitely with the Headwaters 123, it was staff's intention that we wouldn't do anything this year differently with Headwaters 123, but we would work in early 24, EDA and council, especially if we have changes that happen at the council level, that we're all on the same page going forward with whatever we're going to do with Headwaters 23. We certainly can put it in our EDA work plan, though, too, that at the beginning of the year, when we're reviewing our work plan, just bring the council in, invite you in, and really make sure that starting off each year, we're on the same page. I think that that's a good strategy.
Agreed. Specific on, so you mentioned Headwaters is likely to have more of a focus into 2025, but there is focus in 2024 on the southwest area, right, correct? I
Yep.
think that's another area where, as that's starting to come together, some level of joint workshop, just to, again, make sure we're staying on the same page of direction on where that's going, especially as we're starting to go. I think part of the plan is to look for some grant funding on some of those next projects. Is that right?
For the Southwest Area Study, we would be seeking grant funding to do the study.
To do the study?
Yeah.
Okay. And staff will make some recommendations on when's the best time for council and EDA to kind of weigh in on that. But I think that's, again, another area that you're starting to do foundation setting and on the beginning of what will be some sizable projects. And so just, again, an opportunity to make sure council and EDA is on the same page. All right. So I'm not hearing any specific points of feedback. Am I summarizing in that there's a general consensus that we're okay with the work plan? It's just more of feedback to EDA of the council looks forward to opportunities for joint sessions as either we're doing foundation setting or we're talking about kind of specific projects that would ultimately come under probably both bodies' decision-making.
Well, that'd be a great idea. But for right now, I mean, I've looked at, and you will have too, from both sides. And so it gives us a basis to start with here. And
I think, as I looked at this, I was kind of just looking through my kind of list of things I'd like to see in the next couple of years. Everything's got a home. It's on the plan. I think there will be times when we're kind of dialing up or dialing back. But there wasn't anything that I saw as missing. But again, I'm open to that feedback, so.
On the business subsidy and TIF tax abatement, what would be a time frame, a realistic time frame to get that teed up and
We have
reviewed?
our business subsidy in a draft format. The council and the EDA had met and provided direction with staff It was a legal review and made some recommendations, and just with the staffing transitions we experienced in the last part of 2023, it's been hard to do economic development. I would say that our business subsidy policy, we could probably have done end of this quarter, even the first part of next quarter. That being said, it could be our TIF policy or tax abatement policy right in line with those if we have, some good direction from both the EDA and council. That consensus is there of what should these policies really say. I put in here that we'd have all of our policies and procedures done within the year, thinking that we'd take them one at a time, so that we're not trying to bite off too much, because there is a number of other things that need to happen in the first and second quarter of this year. We can definitely look at trying to rearrange that some. But, realistically, I would say by the end of the second quarter, probably for sure your business subsidy, your TIF policy, trying to have those in line as best as we can the middle part of the year. It'd be a goal.
And is it, if let's say something did come forward, a development quicker, and we didn't have that in place, there's willingness to start that process? And
Well, it's really hard to just, so I am the only staff, and we also do have zoning work, planning zoning work. And so it is really hard sometimes to we're gonna develop the policy. We do have a business assistance and a TIF policy. We would pull those out and say, what does this say, right? Anytime we're looking at any of these interactions that we might have. So would be our first go-to. And then if we thought that wasn't appropriate and we needed to make amendments, that's when we'd take a look at that time. As of right now, I don't know of any developments that are in a position, even the first quarter, first half. My understanding is most commercial development, just given the construction climate, interest rates, a lot of that's on hold right now, other than maybe what you saw this evening and a few things we've already permitted. But I don't know of anybody else that might be coming forward with an application.
Are there any other points of feedback? Anything else we want EDA to know?
I think it looks good. It's like what you said, it has all the big points to it. I like how it's descriptive with goals and timeframes, and it's just something that we can hopefully meet and work our way there.
Yeah. Okay. We will bring that back to the EDA. EDA will look to approve, and we'll look for some more opportunities for some joint working sessions as we get into specific topics. It has been,
Sorry, go ahead.
it has been a point of conversation between myself and staff, and I know, I suspect it's also been a conversation with council and staff and EDA and staff of just making sure we're all on the same page. There's a lot of crossover of function, but there's also some discrete things that the EDA can do, and we want, both bodies to be able to, kind of keep making progress and do good work, but also just make sure that we're in alignment, or that there's opportunities to be in alignment, or at least have awareness. And again, not everyone's always going to agree, and we don't expect each body to, be perfectly unanimous on every topic, but we should at least provide that opportunity for discussion so those things can be vetted. So I know it's been high on everyone's radar. Okay.
The only comment I was gonna make is, it just seems to me like at the next EDA meeting, we could invite the whole council to be there. Because we normally do it
That is-
ahead of a council meeting.
That is always an opportunity, yeah.
Gives everybody a chance to be there.
We could look at what specifically, well, we also
Be an
have
open meeting issue, though, would it not?
I don't think it's that. I think that a couple of you will be gone, so maybe we can look at that in April, right?
Yeah, but not necessarily the next meeting, but at an EDA meeting, it's already established, and it's always ahead of a council meeting. All you're doing is getting there an hour early,
Right.
hour and a half
It
early.
that just happens to be a little bit of a challenge in March, that's all.
Yeah.
We do notice, to your point, we do notice those that there may be a quorum of council at those meetings, and so that also
It
is
would have to be
possible.
advertised through
Right,
that.
right.
Yep.
All right, should we, so move on to our next discussion topic? So it's kind of come to attention that we may have a need for an accelerated timeline for the city administrator search, and just want to make sure everyone's clear on what that timeline entails and what that looks like. Amanda, can you just kind of walk us through what we're looking at and some of just the broader discussion?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor, Counsel. So we obviously have an interim right now in Kristina, but we still need to fill the permanent position. Kristina is actively looking for permanent employment, and there are a few opportunities that the timelines of when those opportunities would be presented conflict with running through sort of the standard executive search process that we have established with DDA. So due to that, I have spoken with various council members, with all council members, and it sounds like there is consensus that an expedited track is something that council would like to do. I did speak with Bart from DDA in terms of how that would work. So what would happen is that really over the course of like the next 2.5 weeks, we would try to do the process that we would normally be doing under the standard DDA process, just in a very expedited manner and just for Kristina. So we would not be publicly putting out the ad. We would be holding off the ad and allowing Kristina the opportunity to run through the process now. So that will include all of the background checks and reference checks that DDA would do, and then also the interviews. So that's an interview with all of the council, as well as an interview with, or some sort of interview with stakeholders. So I'm looking for a couple of things from council. The first thing is just a general, yes, you would like me to proceed with this expedited track option. Seeing a little bit of head nodding.
Yes, yes, we would like to.
It's pretty much like, yeah. I thought that was a standard.
So yes, so assuming that that is good, looks like it is, then the second thing that I would be looking for from council is feedback on a day to do the interviews. So I know that the mayor is out basically until March 13th. Ideally, we would like to be able to have this process done by March 18th. So what does it look like to do the interviews on Friday, February 15th in that afternoon? It would be a special meeting.
March.
You're talking about March 15th.
Did I say February? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. March 15th.
Okay, I'm looking at calendars here.
Yeah.
We were looking, so a couple of things about this, I think this component that, so interview that is certainly council-based but open to the public, but then also trying to find a way to invite boards, commissions, key community members to also participate in a forum that is probably a Q&A session after the council interview, and then open it up to some sort of a refreshments, more of a social gathering after. So kind of blocking off some time, 3 o'clock-ish, if that works on the 15th. Could also potentially make Thursday, the 14th work as well. I know we're trying to sandwich in timelines.
I'll make myself available for whatever it takes.
Gets to be challenging. We've got enough time to be able to advertise to the public. I think it's important that we all can be there, but then also that we try to do it in enough time that we can get some invites out. Certainly board commission members, key community members that, you know, chamber members, school district, FLA, you know, lake associations, you know, we'll kind of go through the list and invite some of those key members as well to join, and have some opportunity for, again, some broader kind of town hall type discussion, as well as then some moving into a more social period, so.
I would think that that Thursday, as opposed to a Friday, would
Thursday.
maybe a little bit, get more people to be
Yeah.
able to attend, or.
I think it's
have
probably
briefings.
better.
I'm free either day.
So it'll be the 14th you're talking about.
Yeah. Does Thursday work for you as well?
Oh, sure, yeah, I'll make it work any day, so.
Okay, so it sounds like we may have some flexibility. Amanda, do you want to maybe check with Bart and we can firm up calendars?
Yes, we
On-
can do that. Generally, would it work if we started around 3, or would you rather have it in the evening on that Thursday? I know when we were initially, when the mayor and I had been talking about the 15th, it was to not put it in the evening, but I realize a weeknight is a little different. Would you like it to start actually, later, 6 o'clock? What's preference?
So the time frame on initially the interviews would be with council and then
Yes.
bringing in public. So what's that first piece, hour for that?
Right, I probably wouldn't give more than an hour for the council interview, particularly in this situation where you've already met Kristina, so some of those initial things aren't necessary. So the thought is this would probably be about a 2.5-hour event all said, so approximately an hour for council, probably 45 minutes to an hour, 45 minutes for the Q&A, and then another sort of 45 minutes to an hour for more of that reception, refreshments situation. And then at that time, it would be, council would need to make a decision one way or the other about Kristina. Typically, that night is when that event is when council will make the decision.
So that's made that decision before even getting any feedback from the public that comes in that evening? Like, is there some time to have, like, if someone wants to reach out to us with some concerns? That's my only concern about that timeline. But
So yep, I completely understand what you're saying. The tricky thing that we have is you can't do a closed session to make a decision. So you have to do that in a public session. So that we could do another meeting, or frankly, you could do, that 18th, you have many meetings that night, I think. So you could come and do that, just know that it would be an open session, which can be a little bit awkward, but that's just, frankly, it's going to be awkward.
I think what Councilmember Roberts, I think what part of what you're looking for is just the time to, people who may watch an interview and may not be here live, but then to give you that feedback. It would be possible to do a special meeting and to notice a special meeting that afternoon on Friday, just to give a little bit of distance. Is that?
We could do Friday, yep, we could do Friday or Monday, whatever.
So the event could be Thursday, and then we could do either Friday.
Mara, if I'm not mistaken, we even did it on Saturday last time,
We did do a Saturday meeting, actually, as a matter of fact. We did,
just to get the thing done, so.
yeah. I do kind of like the opportunity to have a little bit of time space just to kind of reflect and gather all feedback. So maybe that's part of what we can work into the schedules, whether that is going to be a Friday afternoon special meeting or if we do it Monday.
Is there a preference from council
I
to?
will note, I would note, our Monday agenda is pretty heavy. We have a joint workshop with the EDA, and then we do have a full night planned with Parks. Again, this is a decision meeting, so it wouldn't necessarily have to be long, and we will have had all information before going into that meeting, but it is a longer meeting night. Is there a preference?
I'm gonna try to be as flexible as I possibly can for this, so I'm gonna try to work around everybody else's schedule.
I would prefer a little bit longer than just the next day.
Okay.
And since we're all gonna be in the building anyway, we had like a 10 to 11 meeting, wasn't it, like 2 weeks ago?
Yes,
So
we
we're kind
did.
of used to those longer marathons, so.
Bring
I
Starbucks.
don't know.
Yeah.
So would it work if we did that before the EDA closed session? So would you be able to come maybe around 4:30 on that 18th, and then we'll do that meeting, EDA closed session, and then move into the work session?
Yes.
I think
All right,
the EDA, wasn't the
It's awkward
EDA
for me to
closed?
talk, but I just want to make sure you know that at 4:30 on that day is the open house for CASA 2 Broadway Avenue project. So
Yeah.
in case you guys wanted to go there, I want to make sure you had that opportunity.
Well, that's at 4:30, and that's an open house, correct? So and what is the time for that open house again?
4:30 to 6:30.
4:30, 6:30. We could have a 4 o'clock meeting.
Yep.
4 o'clock special meeting, that open house opens at 4:30, and if we aren't there till 5, we've got a fair amount of time, is that,
Well, then you have the 5:30 closed session with EDA.
and then we have a 5:30. It is a busy night, but.
3:30? I mean, we could do it, I mean, we can do it whenever on that Monday. It doesn't have to be, I just don't want to make you go back and forth from City Hall, but.
Maybe let's schedule it for 3:30, unless someone's got a calendar item that won't work for 3:30.
Leif builds his schedule out quite in advance, so checking with him obviously would probably be important.
Okay. I will tentatively pencil it in for 3:30 on that Monday. I will communicate with council as, everything gets firmed up. So then just to recap, what will happen tomorrow morning is I will reach out with Bart, tell him to go ahead and fire up the machine for Kristina. He will do that. That will take really probably the rest of this week and the beginning of next to have her kind of go through the steps that he has. In the meantime, we will notice for these various meetings, and I will be reaching out to council to get feedback on who you would like to extend invitations to, making sure that I have the full list of everybody that you want specifically. I mean, the public is welcome, but specifically, making it clear, please come. I have a list from tonight, but I want to make sure that we don't miss anybody. The thought is that we would, ask on these kind of directed emails, ask if you have specific questions, if you want to get those to Bart or myself to make sure that there's sort of a list for the Q&A. And we haven't quite figured out exactly how that Q&A is going to go. Given the number of people, it doesn't really work to do a panel interview. It's just too many people. So we'll I'll brainstorm with Bart on how that will look for that piece of it, and then we'll also get the pieces figured out for the reception.
Then is there some type of communication that, I don't know if it would be put out or if it's to have, so people are wondering what the change is about, why we're kind of expediting this, but yet not, doesn't mean we're landing on a candidate, but we can go back and do the full process?
Yeah. So we have a couple options there. We could certainly do a press release. That might be a little too heavy-handed. We can do a notice on the city website that would just sort of essentially be a press release, and then use the marketing company to put it out on Facebook and just explain we're not cutting corners on the process. This is the same process we would be using. Council is not obligated to hire Kristina. It is simply giving her the opportunity to be considered for the position due to some time constraints, in her own job search.
Mm-hmm. What happens if we say no?
If you say no, then we just move forward with putting out the posting for the position, and then obviously that takes some time to sit out there and bake to get the candidates in. That's really kind of the time piece. And so then we would wait for those candidates and have a date, a close date, probably 4 weeks after we would post it, 3 weeks after we would post it, and then start this whole process again, just with the candidates that we have.
And then what happens to Kristina along the way, then, if we say no?
Well, if we say no to, okay.
I want to look at both ends of it here.
If we say no to permanent employment, that doesn't mean that we've terminated interim employment. We have a 30-day notice in the interim, and so does she. So let's say that she were to find a different job, or she would decide that she wants to take a different job, she would need to give us a 30-day notice. Likewise, if we were to find a permanent candidate that is not her, we would need to give her a 30-day notice. We're not under any obligation to say yes to her because we're doing this process, and we don't lose her by saying no to her in this process. But, I mean, she is obviously actively looking for a job, and so when she finds one, she will be giving a 30-day notice at that time.
So how about the scenario where maybe we don't, we're not saying we don't want her to be, but would she come back into the pool? I mean, even if we decide not, we want more options. Maybe, she's a great candidate, but maybe we want a couple more options that just circle back into where we are.
Correct.
Basically.
Yes, exactly. It would really circle back into kind of round two. That said, it would be up to her if she wants to be considered again, and again, it would depend on if she, had found a different position.
It might prove her point.
It might. Yes, this is awkward in that, we have some, there's just a lot of procedural or sort of practical issues here that are just the reality, right? She's got to find a job. We've got to find a permanent. We hope it's a fit. It might be, it might not be, and I think we're all adults and we'll all figure out how to be, shake hands at the end of the day regardless of what happens.
My concern with all these balls we got in the air all at one time, we don't drop one, you know what I mean? And we want to be fair to everybody. And we want to make sure that the taxpayers are served by us doing our due diligence.
Yes,
so
and that was, every single council member, and Kristina made that crystal clear in conversations with me about wanting the public input and making sure that the process was a legitimate process. This is not some sort of, backdoor deal at all. We are following the exact EDA process that they would be using if we decide not to move forward with Kristina.
Answers my questions.
I appreciate Bart and DDA's flexibility in this. One of the things that had started on the DDA work plan is he had met with council members on, I think over this last week, and he had also met with staff, and that was part of all building up part of that position profile. I believe that work continues on kind of being prepared and having that position profile. It's just the timing of actually posting the role, that's what's changed. And so there is some of that work plan that's, has happened and will continue to get that benefit. It's just this timing is kind of requires this kind of change in time frame.
In the meantime, Kristina goes to the meat grinder.
It's every day here.
Every day, yeah, right. Been through it before, right?
So I think I have the direction that I need from council. Like usual, there will be communications from me forthcoming.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And that concludes our discussion topics for this evening. Let's move into staff updates and then council updates. Abby
No special report tonight.
and Kristina.
Nothing from me.
Amanda,
Nothing.
No updates.
Ryan.
Sorry. Mayor, City Council, last Tuesday, February 20th, Washington County held their bid opening for County State Highway 33. The bids came in about $150,000 lower than engineers' estimates, so that will move forward to the next county board for award, and then our next step would be holding a pre-construction meeting, and then we'll get a pretty defined schedule from the contractor that then they can notify all the adjacent property owners, and we can start doing stuff, publicly too on the websites with all the other neighborhoods in that area too, so.
Perfect.
The 2024 streets pavement and maintenance project bid opening is March 8th. Just a friendly reminder, the water efficiency grants will end after the second quarter, so June 30th, so make sure we're still promoting that. And then we just mentioned it earlier, but another friendly reminder, March 18th, the public open house for Broadway Avenue, 4:30 to 6:30. That's all.
Thank you, Ryan. Chief Peterson.
Yeah, Mayor and City Council members, good evening. I just want to publicly thank Captain Greg Weiss, who is retiring this Thursday after 23 years of service with the City of Forest Lake and 31 years of service with law enforcement. And he's going to be greatly missed. Tried to get him here, but he declined. He's being a little
Fair.
shy. But so anyways, we're going to miss him. And Captain Luke Hanegraaff is transitioning very well, and looking forward to Sergeant John Glatter joining us upstairs as a detective sergeant, and Sergeant Nick Kent. So lots of changes in the police department, and as we mentioned the last couple of years, succession planning is very important for any organization, and we're well into it right now.
So we're going to be hiring again, at least one, huh?
Yep, we will be, right now, we have open job posting, and with Captain Weiss's retirement, and soon Sergeant Bruce Peterson next month, we'll have 2 vacancies.
Well, we certainly appreciate Captain's service to Forest Lake and wish him well in his retirement, much deserved. So, thank you. And I think we have some badge promotion ceremonies planned at a future council meeting as well.
Yep, future council meeting.
new captain and-
Don't have the date just yet, but probably next month.
Look forward to celebrating those as well. Very good. Thank you, Chief.
Yep.
And Kevin.
No updates.
All right. Bring updates to council. Start Councilmember Roberts.
Not really updates. I'd just like to echo the Captain Weiss's time here and all he's done for this community. It's much appreciated, and he's not going anywhere. We'll still see him around town, so that's great. And then to the chief for your leadership through this whole thing, the process and bringing these new people on and the succession planning that you've done. Appreciate it.
Councilmember Valento.
Congratulations to Captain Weiss. What an exciting time for a new chapter of his life. And then the other update I have is we had a cable commission meeting last Thursday, and we looked over finances for the commission and also to be sustainable, because that's always the question with the cable commission. Paul is looking into sponsorship packages, which he's mimicking from other cable commissions throughout the state. So that's exciting to see what will happen from that. And then from that, of course, comes policies. And so we got, I think, 3 policies thrown our way. So we're going to check those out. And then, of course, with that, we're going to look at old policies as well. So we'll see all the new changes coming with the cable commission. So fingers crossed that it's a positive direction, and I'm optimistic for it.
Very good. Thank you. Councilmember Husnick.
Thank you. Congratulations to Captain Weiss. We really appreciate his service. We will be picking on him later. I know we will. Other than that, I have no other further updates.
All
Thank you.
right. Yeah, and no update from me either. The end of our planned agenda, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? And we're adjourned.